Call to order and recording of members present and absent.
Hanson.
Here.
McDermott.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Slater. Here.
Open meeting compliance statement.
I, the undersigned clerk of the Board of Education of the Alva Independent School District, number 1 of Woods County, Oklahoma, certify that prior to December 15th of the last calendar year, the date, time, and place of this agenda was posted in the office of the County Clerk of Woods County, Oklahoma. I also certify that 24 hours prior to this meeting, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays, notice of the date, time, place, and agenda of this meeting was posted in prominent public view at the office of the superintendent.
Consent agenda. All of the following items which concern reports and items of a routine nature, normally approved by one board vote, unless any board member desires to have a separate vote on any or all of these items. The consent agenda consists of the discussion, consideration, and approval of the following. 3.1, addition of items of new business to the agenda.
We have one new addition to the agenda that we will address at the end of the board meeting for a travel request for the FFA Livestock judging team.
3.2, minutes of the July 11th, 2022 regular meeting. Approval of the finance report, approval of the activity fund report. Declare the following items as surplus.
Okay, we'll start with agenda item 3.2, our minutes from the July 11th board meeting. You can see the attachment there. I did not find any errors with those minutes. Agenda item 3.3, the bottom attachment, are July investments. You can open that attachment and review that. If you will also, after reviewing, open up the finance report, you can see that given you all the chart of chargeables of comparison from that last year to this school year. Very early, obviously 1 month in to our financial year, you can see with our gross production, a $57,000 increase, pretty significant decrease in motor vehicle collection, $32,000 decrease, and then our REA tax, school land earnings are both up slightly, and county formula is down. If you will look at the other second page of that attachment, you see the comparison through graphs. You can see that we have spent less and brought in more revenue as compared to each fiscal year, and then also show that on the third page of the attachment. Revenue increase of $147,000 to date. We've spent $150,000 less. Our activity.
Can I ask a question?
You bet.
What is the sources of that additional revenue? I know you break some of them down on that chart.
Show me where.
Well, on the numbers it shows you have revenue of $432,320.67.
Okay, so when I take our, so each month, all I'm taking in this top chart are chargeables. When I do the entire revenue for the month, I'm taking all of our federal program reimbursement. I'm taking any kind of state aid. I'm taking any reimbursement of, we had some program year tax reimbursements.
I understand.
So we had some things that rolled over into the month of July that we previously had. And so each month, I'm going to run that report off of our wind gauge system, and it's going to total up everything that we have. What you're going to see on that first chart are just our 5 areas of chargeables.
Okay, I understand.
So they won't match up.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 3.4, the activity funds. You can open up those attachments. Those are year-to-date and month of July. Since our July 11th board meeting, there's been very little movement in our activity funds. They all continue to be in good shape. We've got a couple that will need to be doing some fundraisers. I mentioned that last month. Talking about band, their balance is a little bit low at this point. Agenda item 3.5, you see this attachment. These are some carousels from Longfellow that we will surplus. Any questions with the consent agenda? If there are none, I would recommend its approval.
Second?
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Item number 4, a vote to approve purchase order encumbrances for the following funds for fiscal year '23. 4.1 general fund as referenced, 4.2 building fund as referenced, and 4.3 child nutrition fund as referenced.
Okay, if you will look at agenda item 4.1 and open up the top attachment, our general fund purchase orders for July. Go through a few of those right now. Purchase order number 161, Verizon Digitally Enhanced Campus, that's Alt Ed software, elementary software, $9,360. Purchase order number 167, Edmonton, Edison District software we use throughout the district. Study Island, Reading Eggs are a couple of those programs. Purchase orders number 184, 185, and 197. Together, those all total $5,799.99. Those are band music arrangements for their marching show and also new percussion instruments for the band. Purchase order number 188, $7,550. Curriculum and Associates, those are some special education software. Purchase orders number 190, 196, and 200. Contracted services that we will be reviewing later on in the board meeting. And then the second attachment are the payroll encumbrances for the month of July. And these are some of our new staff that we will be reviewing later in the board agenda also. Agenda item 4.2, building fund. If you open that attachment, we had one purchase order from the building fund in the month of July. Our service master, that was an inspection for air quality and mold in our basement that carried over from last year. And so that encumbrance is to cover that purchase order from the previous year. Agenda item 4.3, child nutrition fund. We have 3 purchase orders there. Those are some repairs to our walk-in freezer at the middle school, the outdoor walk-in freezer, and also a repair for Bushman Heat and Air for our Lincoln refrigerator. Grey Dog Mechanical worked on our walk-in freezer. $6,500 was what was encumbered, and also $4,500 encumbered for that. Still waiting on parts and definite price. Any questions about agenda item 4.1, 4.2, or 4.3? If there are none, I would recommend their approval.
Make a motion, we approve the purchase order encumbrances referenced in 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3.
Second.
Parker,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Superintendent's report. Resignations, retirements, and reassignments.
Okay, we have some reassignments that I would bring to the board tonight. First of all, Mandy McCaney is moving from a paraprofessional at Washington Early Childhood Center. She will now be the secretary at middle school. Julie Benningfield has been teaching for us 4/7 title at Lincoln, and we've had an ELL position open this year, and she has graciously volunteered her services to do that ELL for us, so we thank her for that. And then finally, Mike Sklar, his schedule this year at the middle school allows him to teach physical education at Longfellow, and Mike has agreed to do that, and we appreciate his willingness to do so. For my communication, just a reminder that we have School Board Association conference meeting August the 25th to the 28th. And a reminder that tomorrow at 2 o'clock we will have our bid opening for the HVAC project in the high school cafeteria. Kyler Construction will manage that bid process, and we're hoping in the next couple of months as they review our paving projects, they'll be able to give us a little bit better budget estimate after working with the architect. Any questions from my communication? Okay, agenda item 5.3, strategic plan. We really want to take a moment to thank our principals. Again, we've talked a lot about the last couple of years and the work that our teachers have done, but I think it should not go unnoticed, the work our administrators have done also. Many decisions, most of them unschool related, and so really proud of the work that they put in and the time that they put in to really have a pretty amazing 2 school years, all things considered. And so as we begin to restart our strategic plan and work towards communicating that to the board and the community, I turn it over to Mr. Feely, and he will give a presentation on our curriculum and instruction goal area. Mr. Feely.
Goal area number 1 was curriculum and instruction, and under the first objective, we had initiative 1, which was incorporating research-based instructional strategies. And we talked about professional development. We've done a ton of professional development in the area of content area literacy and student engagement. And that is going to be an ongoing thing. We're going to continue to do that. At Lincoln in the middle school this year, we will do a book study of Chris Tabani's book. I read it, but I don't get it, which is an adolescent literacy practical guide for teaching strategies. And then at Lincoln, we will implement this fully in our Literacy for All project, where we will incorporate those things that we've learned in a book study, and then we're going to also, there will be a formal writing portion to this project, and we are targeting some very specific standards at that level so that we can try to move the needle on our Oklahoma State testing scores. A third step in that was to monitor the implementation to assure that it's being implemented with fidelity. We have created a walkthrough tool that we will use iPads to go into those classrooms, and basically it's going to give us the data on how much adoption we're seeing. Because we've done a lot of professional development, and we see some adoption, and it's not to the level that, you know, we gain some momentum from it. And that same goal area, objective 1, also was an action step to create a tiered structure of targeted intervention strategies. So we brought in the Oklahoma Autism Center, and we did a summer internship here with our kids, and a lot of that was about how to manage behaviors in the classroom and in a way that would allow these interventions to take place. We'll be bringing Debbie Diller and Associates to do workstation training in January, and that will be Washington and Longfellow teachers. And what she does is she teaches how to implement stations in the classroom, and what that allows them to do is still do academic material in those stations while freeing the teacher up to be able to do some targeted interventions with kids that need some more help. And we've had Debbie Diller here before I got here. And so we're going to expand that to Longfellow and kind of refresh things at Washington. Objective number 2, initiative 1, was to develop a systematic career interest inventory to determine ICAP options. The high school and middle school did that in the last year, and they have completed that action step. It will be an ongoing action step every year, as some of these interests with our students will probably change. So they administered that, and they have reviewed the results and used that to determine maybe, you know, what path some of these kids want to take with their high school plan of study. So we have several big things to tackle this year, and some of these items that were scheduled for this year have already been completed, and we'll keep going with those.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Feely. Do you have any questions for Mr. Feely?
The book, I read it, but I don't get it. You said we are going to read it. Who's we?
Lincoln and AMS staffs are going to do that during faculty meetings. So faculty meetings will no longer really be about managerial items. They're going to be literacy workshops each week, and the principals of those buildings will lead that. Mrs. Lovelace and I will also be a part of what's going on at Longfellow to help support that and support those teachers. And we've already laid out the plan for them. They've had some of the summer to kind of soak that in, and we'll get back to them during in-service and begin in earnest at that time.
Are we seeing any improvements at all?
So we have seen preliminary test scores. We don't have the final test scores yet. And I can tell you that it pretty much looks like it has been looking. And that's why we're gonna be a little more specific and a little bit more focused in targeting this. And then Mrs. Martini will start that project a year later. They're gonna do the book study part of it, but the formal writing process part of it won't start till the following year.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Items, 6.0, items of current business. 6.1, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve an offer of a one-year temporary contract to applicant number 1, certified teacher for the 2022-23 school year.
So we are happy to bring Kim Daniels as our special education teacher. She is on vacation and was unable to be here in a year of shortages, and to find someone with that certification, we are very pleased to do so. And so Kim will be assigned here at the high school, and I would recommend approval of this one-year temporary contract.
Move to approve item 6.1 as presented.
Second.
Slater,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Item 6.2, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve an offer of employment to the following bus drivers for the 2022-23 school year.
If you will open up the attachment, you will see that we are bringing to the board recommending Steve Gale, Scott Ball, Steve Ham, Dakota Buckholz, and Dusty Horn as bus drivers for the 22-23 school year.
Make a motion we approve the bus drivers as referenced in 6.2.
Second.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Item number 6.3, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the Alva School District's handbooks for the 2022-23 school year. And they are attached.
So if you will review those, and I know you've been reviewing them, a couple of things that I wanted to point out to you. In each of our handbooks, you will notice that we have a 30-cent increase for our breakfast and lunch prices. So I'll make sure and make note of that. LaDonna, Ms. Durkee has done a tremendous job of staying up to date on child nutrition from a state perspective. And many different recommendations and ways to do this. Our last increase was prior to COVID, and as we all know, inflationary costs have hit everything, and so we believe that it's important to do that. And of course, we'll take a step back and review that at the end of the year. Also, just might reference that we were able to meet and go over some distance learning. You will see in addition to that in the handbooks this year, distance learning will look a little different. In prior years, it was always the assignments to be turned in on a Sunday, and it would be graded on a day-to-day, day-for-day perspective, just like our current homework policy is if it's written. We believe this is going to help alleviate some of the paperwork and the weight that goes into that. Are there any questions that you all have on the handbooks for any of the principals? Again, I want to just emphasize that they put a lot of work into this, have done a great job, and so I appreciate their time that they've spent on it. And I know they'll be open to any questions that you might have.
Make a motion that we approve 6.3.
Second?
Hanson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Number 6.4, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the following applicants for non-certified positions for the 2022-23 school year.
Okay, if you'll open up the attachments there, I can go through that attachment with you for these support staff, non-certified hires. We'll start there at the top. Our teacher's aide for class size limitations, Nicole Briggs, Lori Cavanis, Janet Calindo Chavez, and Aaron Payne. Those will all be placed with our kindergarten teachers as a result of class sizes and in lieu of the class size penalty. We have one pre-K aide, Braylon Leatherby. We have paraprofessionals Micah Maloney, Denise Turner, Patricia Engel, Angela Lake, Letitia Parker, and Cindy Schaefer. And then we also have a new middle school secretary, Alexis Gasper. All of these positions, paraprofessional positions, save one, are replacement positions for resignations. Pre-K position is also a replacement position. If there are no questions, I would recommend approval of these non-certified positions for the 22-23 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Hanson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Item number 6.5, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the following contracts for fiscal year 23.
Do all of these together.
6.5.1, the Stepping Stone Group LLC. 6.5.2, Northwest Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab. 6.5.3, Connie Martin, SLPD TC-SLP. 6.5.4, Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology Education. 6.5.5, Northwestern Technology Center Practical Nursing and Healthcare Program. 6.5.6, American Fidelity Section 125 Flex Plan. 6.5.7, Big Five Community Services Agreement.
Agenda item 6.5.1, the Stepping Stone Group LLC. That is our contract for district psychology services. In the past, you've seen that as EBS services, and that company was purchased by the Stepping Stones Group, and so they will provide our district psychology services to remain in compliance with all of our IEPs. Agenda item 6.5.2, Northwest Physical Therapy and Sports Rehab. This is our contract for this year for physical therapy for students. Agenda item 6.5.3, speech pathologist Connie Martin. We are contracting services with Miss Martin this year in lieu of a full-time replacement teacher. We felt like this would fit the district better, and we know that Miss Martin will provide us quality services for our students. Agenda item 6.5.4, Oklahoma Department of Career and Technology. This agenda item is for us to be able to receive program assistance money. We receive program assistance money for our FACS programs, ag education programs, and our middle school technology education program. Agenda item 6.5.5, routine agreement allows our high school students that are enrolled in the practical nursing program at Northwest Tech to be able to have those experiences at other facilities. Agenda item 6.5.6, American Fidelity Section 125 Flex Plan. This is a routine agenda item that we adopt each year. American Fidelity does all our 403B tax savings for our employees and our flexible benefit plans. And then finally, agenda item 6.5.7, Big Five Community Service Agreement. This is our service agreement with Big Five Head Start to provide meals services for those students. If there are no questions with agenda item 6.5, I will recommend that we approve these contracts for the fiscal year 23.
Second.
Hanson,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater.
Yes.
Item 6.6, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve the following board policies as referenced.
Want to again thank our principals for their review of these policies. Also thank Ms. McDermott and Mr. Hanson for their review. I'll go through these policies, give a short synopsis of them. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer those. First policy, CKE-R, drug and alcohol and contraband searches. What this policy does, along with the regulation, along with CKAE on the next page, that policy provides for our contraband searches and also supports the use of drug dogs in school. Policy DPD, adjunct teacher policy. This policy is in response to Senate Bill 1238, which modified Oklahoma law for adjunct teachers. It removed the 3-hour rule, and adjunct teachers can now teach outside of their certification area a full day. Policy EHDF. Policy EHDF is online policy required by law. It changed a little bit this year where any school district can offer an online school regardless of residency, and a student can attend that. Requires schools that do take on this project to list capacity just like they would normally. Student transfers, policy FE, we bring back student transfers to make note of our capacity at Washington Elementary. As a result of a resignation of that teacher accepted in July, we have a capacity of 60, and we felt like it was important that we note that on our transfer policy at this point. Policy FNFE, Spectator Code of Conduct, Athletic Programs. This policy was sent by the School Board Association. It has also been addressed through the Secondary Activity Association, fan conduct and behavior. You can see on the second page of this policy, we had our school attorney do some work on this, and so any behavior that results in the dismissal of a fan will result in a week suspension and the completion of an assigned video through the NFHS. A second offense results in removal for a calendar year. And then it provides an appeal for both of those instances in this policy. Policy FNF is the search of students. And if you look at the following two, regulation and then the form, you have FNF, which is the regulation. This notes what will be allowed in those searches, allows for reasonable suspicion. And then if you look at FNFE, that is the documentation that will be used by administrators when those searches are conducted. GJ is a school visitor policy. It is required by law. GJ and GJP provide for the grievance of this. This is not a new policy for Alva Public Schools, but you can see the underlying part is an addition that has been made through legislation. GKF is a new policy. This is required by state law. Lack of adoption by school boards could mean a result in a 5% reduction in state aid. And it's recommended that this policy is adopted at the first board meeting possible, and that's why we bring that to you tonight. Provides for the disciplinary method for using facilities, restroom facilities. Students, staff, and patrons must use those by birth, and requires reasonable accommodations for those that choose not to follow that policy. Any questions that you might have for myself or anyone on that committee that has been reviewing these? none, I would recommend their approval.
Move to approve the board policies listed in 6.6.
Second.
Slater,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Item 6.7, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve an agreement with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation regarding compensation and damages related to the taking of district property for the purpose of a utility easement affecting parcels 12 and 19 of Section 26, Township 27 North, Range 14 West, Woods County, Oklahoma, and authorizing the board president to execute all such related documents to the agreement.
So this process began in the fall of this year. Long-term plans, Oklahoma Department of Transportation is looking to purchase, or is wanting to acquire that for later building of a sidewalk area. It'll be about 10 feet that we will move of the Lincoln Elementary fence. So where you see along the east side of the playground, we'll move that in 10 feet. We've been offered $37,050 for that, which we believe is a fair price. It gives us some flexibility later on down the road to look at possibly asphalting that drive or paving that drive that moves out or is our exit to the east of the playground. We don't know when the project will begin. We do know that in 6 to 8 weeks, pending board approval, we'll receive payment of that. But it may be 6 to 8 months, if not longer, before any kind of project begins to put a sidewalk there.
Will they move the fence for us?
Yes, they are moving the fence, they're relocating it, putting the fence back up. Our only requirement is to take our sign that we put in there, we remove that, they do the rest.
And the money has to be put back into capital improvements, right?
Correct. Well, it goes back into our general fund, not necessarily any particular area. Yes.
This affect any of the cement there at the top of that exit?
No, it will not. That will all still be there. That will be left as is. And what we wanted to try to negotiate, we'll be able to add to that, goes down that. Part of that inclement weather issue when we have going up that ramp can be a problem. If there are no other questions, I would recommend approval of agenda item 6.7.
So moved.
Second.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Our added agenda item, number 7 of new business.
Miss, sorry, Jen, go ahead.
Okay.
Get your agenda, Jane, it's listed on there.
Yep.
There's probably a new one on your, that I left there for you.
Okay. Let me read it off of here. Right here, 7.1.
Yep.
Okay. 7.1, discussion with possible board action, vote to approve out-of-state travel for the Alva FFA to attend a livestock judging contest on August 11th through the 12th, 2022 in Coffeeville, Kansas.
Mr. Nation brought this item in after the agenda was posted. Wanted to make sure that he brought this to the board. Still in question, there's a softball tournament that is going to be happening at that time, but he is still seeking board approval in the event they're able to get enough students to travel and attend. And so I would recommend approval of this FFA travel request to Coffeeville, Kansas.
I make a motion that we approve 7.1.
Second.
Slater,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
McDermott,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Item number 8, proposed executive session to discuss the AEA negotiations for 25 Oklahoma State Statute Section 307B2. Vote to convene into executive session.
Make a motion, we convene into executive session.
Second.
McDermott,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Slater,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.